Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The velvet box in my pocket felt heavier than lead, burning against my thigh like a branding iron. But the weight was nothing compared to the suffocating silence that had just descended upon the grand hall. One moment, the orchestra was swelling with a waltz, the air thick with the cloying scents of perfumes and omega pheromones. The next, the music had been severed, choked off by the collective gasp of 300 aristocrats. I stood frozen, a flute of champagne threatening to shatter in my grip, as I watched the man I loved, the man I was ready to burn my inheritance for, walk past me without a glance, his polished dress shoes clicking against the marble like the ticking of a bomb, until he stopped before the gilded throne where my younger brother sat. Julian didn't look at me. He didn't look at the chaos he was causing. He looked only at Lorien. I am Cassian Valerius, the first son, the prime alpha of the Valerius bloodline. I have broken business rivals with a stare and silenced boardrooms with a flare of my pheromones, scented of ozone and deep, scorched earth. I was not a man who knew fear. But as Julian, my stoic, brilliant, beautiful secretary, a man the world believed was a beta, lowered himself slowly to one knee before my spoiled omega brother, I felt the first true strike of terror I had ever known. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was a demolition. Julian, I whispered, the name catching in my throat, unheard over the rising murmur of the crowd. My brother, Lorien, smiled. It was that sickly, triumphant smile he wore whenever he broke one of my toys as a child. He sat lounges on the velvet settee, his pheromones, sugared peaches bordering on rot, spiking in the air, choking the room with self-satisfaction. Speak, Lorien commanded, his voice high and thin, twirling a lock of his silver hair. Julian, the man whose mouth had been on mine only 3 hours ago in the darkened archives of this very estate, bowed his head. I, Julian Thorne, pledge my life, my loyalty, and my hand in marriage to Lorien Valerius. I offer myself as your guardian. The champagne flute in my hand finally shattered. The sound was like a gunshot. The shards sliced into my palm, but the sting was distant, irrelevant. Blood dripped onto the pristine white marble, mingling with the spilled gold of the vintage wine. The crowd parted as I stepped forward. My pheromones erupted, no longer controlled. The scent of ozone turned into a thunderstorm, heavy and suffocating, making the weaker alphas in the room stumble back and the omegas whine in distress. Get up, I growled. My voice was low, a rumble of tectonic plates shifting. Julian didn't move. He remained kneeling, his back straight, the line of his tuxedo sharp against the chaotic opulence of the room. He was looking at Lorien's hand, extended to him like a queen offering a ring to a peasant. Cassian, darling, Lorien drawled, his eyes dancing with malicious glee. Don't be a sore loser. Julian knows where the true power of this family lies. He's tired of being a secretary to a brute. He wants a pet. I am speaking to him, I snarled, stepping closer. The air pressure in the room dropped. Julian, look at me. Slowly, agonizingly, Julian turned his head. His eyes were cold. Those eyes, the color of storm clouds that usually softened when we were alone, were now walled off, fortresses of ice. There was no apology in them. No regret. Just a blank, terrifying resolve. Congratulations on your brother's engagement, Lord Cassian, Julian said. His voice was steady, professional. It was the voice he used when scheduling my meetings, not the voice he used when he whispered my name against my skin. Why? The word was torn from me. We had a plan. Tonight. I have the ring. Plans change. Julian cut me off, turning back to Lorien and taking my brother's pale, slender hand. He pressed a kiss to Lorien's knuckles. And I have made my choice. I could have killed them both. The instinct was there, the primal, alpha urge to tear apart the threat and the thief. But I was paralyzed by the sheer impossibility of it. Julian was a beta. He had no biological imperative to serve an omega. We were soulmates. I knew it in the way our minds synchronized, the way we fit together. I turned on my heel and walked out. I didn't run. A Valerius does not run. But as I exited the grand hall, leaving a trail of blood drops from my clenched fist, I felt the world tilt on its axis. 3 days passed in a blur of rage and alcohol. I destroyed my study. I shattered the antique mirrors. I refused to see anyone. The betrayal was a physical weight in my chest, a constant pressure that made breathing difficult. I was sitting in the ruins of my office, a bottle of whiskey on the desk, when the door creaked open. It was him. Julian slipped inside, locking the door behind him. He looked tired. There were dark circles under his eyes, and his usually immaculate suit was slightly rumpled. He didn't look like a fiancé enjoying the bliss of engagement. He looked like a man who had walked through hell. I stood up slowly, the alcohol evaporating from my blood instantly, replaced by cold fury. You have some nerve coming here. Did Lorien send you to fetch his wedding gifts? Cashin, listen to me, Julian said, his voice dropping to a hush. He didn't approach the desk. He stayed by the door, his hand resting on the handle as if ready to flee. Why should I listen? I stalked around the desk, advancing on him. You humiliated me. You chose him. The boy who has never worked a day in his life. The boy who tormented you for years. I didn't choose him, Julian whispered. I chose you. I stopped, laughing harshly. Is that what you call it? Kneeling for him. Kissing his hand. If I hadn't knelt, Julian said, his eyes finally meeting mine, burning with a desperate intensity, your father was going to kill you. The silence that followed was heavier than the one in the ballroom. Explain, I commanded, my voice shaking. Julian took a breath. Your father found out about us. About the ring you bought. He knows I'm not a beta. Cashin. I froze. What? I'm not a beta. Julian began to unbutton his collar. There, on the scent gland of his neck, usually covered by a high collar or scent patches, was a scar. A jagged, ugly mark. My pheromones. They were surgically suppressed. I was born an alpha. A dominant alpha from the fallen Thorn lineage. My mind reeled. 2 alphas. A relationship between 2 dominant alphas was considered taboo, biologically aggressive, often resulting in violence. But with Julian, it had never felt aggressive. It felt like 2 stars orbiting each other. Your father, Julian continued, his voice trembling now, told me that if I accepted your proposal, he would trigger the heritage clause. He would strip you of your rank, your inheritance, and he would have you assassinated to prevent a succession war. He viewed our union as a threat to the bloodline purity. So you sacrificed yourself? I asked, the rage draining away, replaced by a horrified realization. The only way to keep you in power, to keep you safe, was to make myself unavailable, Julian said, tears finally welling in his eyes. By pledging to Lorien, I bind myself to the Valerius family as a servant husband. Your father gets to keep his pet, Thorn, under control, and you remain the heir. You stupid, arrogant fool, I breathed, closing the distance between us. I slammed my hands against the door on either side of his head, trapping him. The scent of him, no longer hidden by patches, hit me. It wasn't the scent of a beta. It was cedarwood and steel, sharp and overwhelming. It clashed with my ozone scent, creating a volatile, electric storm in the room. You think I care about the inheritance? I hissed, leaning down so our foreheads touched. You think I care about the title? I would have burned this house to the ground for you. And that is why I couldn't let you, Julian replied, his hands coming up to grip the lapels of my shirt. You are born to rule, Cashin. I couldn't let you become a pauper for me. So you decided to marry my brother? To sleep in his bed? The thought made my vision go red. No, Julian said sharply. Lorien doesn't want me in his bed. He wants a trophy. He knows I'm an alpha. He gets off on the power trip of having a thorn on a leash. It's a political marriage, Cashin. Nothing more. It's a prison, I corrected. And I won't allow it. There is no way out, Julian said, defeat sagging his shoulders. The contract is signed. If I break it, I die. If you interfere, you lose everything. I looked at him. This man who had swallowed his pride, his biology, and his future just to keep me on a throne I didn't want. The love I felt for him surged, dark and possessive. He thought he had solved the puzzle, but he had forgotten one thing. I was not just a rich heir. I was a predator. You think my father is the only one who knows how to play games? I whispered, brushing my thumb over the scar on his neck. Julian shivered. What are you doing? The heritage clause, I murmured, my mind racing through the legal texts I had memorized years ago. It states that an Omega's betrothal can be annulled if the suitor is proven to be incompatible, or if a higher claim is made. There is no higher claim than the Omega heir, Julian argued. There is, I said, a dangerous smile spreading across my face. The right of conquest. Julian's eyes widened. Cassian, no? That's archaic. That's barbaric. It's the law, I said. If an alpha challenges the betrothed for the hand of the intended, they fight. But I won't fight you for Lorien. I will fight Lorien for you. You can't claim an alpha, Julian stammered. Watch me. I pulled back, adjusting my cuffs. The despair was gone. The confusion was gone. I had a target now. Go back to Lorien, I commanded softly. Play the part of the dutiful fiancé. Let my father think he has won. Let Lorien think he owns you. Cassian, trust me, I said, gripping his chin and forcing him to look at me. You knelt for him to save me. Now, I will burn the world to raise you up. By the time I am done, you won't be a servant, and you won't be a husband to that brat. You will be the co-head of this family. Julian searched my face, looking for the lie. When he didn't find one, he let out a shuddering breath and leaned into my hand. I am yours, Cassian. Always. I know, I said, leaning down to capture his lips in a bruising, claiming kiss that tasted of whiskey and desperation. And tonight, the alpha who knelt will rise. I watched him leave, slipping back into the shadows to return to his cage. I turned back to my desk, picked up the phone, and dialed the number of my private legal counsel. Prepare the challenge papers, I said into the receiver, my voice cold as death. And get my gun. The engagement party was just the opening act. The war for Julian Thorne had just begun. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf. If you enjoyed seeing Cassian take control, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a partner who betrayed you to save your life? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,